Good morning. My name is John Boerstler, and I serve as the Chief Executive Officer of Combined Arms. We're a backbone organization for military and veteran serving entities here in the greater Houston region and other parts of Texas. And I have the pleasure today to speak with and really introduce to the community Dave Lewis, who was recently appointed and chosen by the Harris County Commissioners Court to serve as the first Harris County Veteran Services Department Director. It used to be the Veteran Services Office, and as the largest county in the state of Texas for veterans and one of the largest counties in the United States for veterans. Welcome, Dave. We're really excited to have you as the new leader of the department, and just wanted to take a couple minutes to really just get to know you and what led you to this, on your journey, what led you to this great opportunity and this great position.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the welcome, and I'm really excited to be here. This is not the kind of business I originally thought I would wind up in. Spent 29 years in the Air Force, retired in 2009. I've been teaching at State University with a strategic studies program and terrorism, counterinsurgency, homeland security type things. And this opportunity popped up. I had run nonprofits in Lubbock, Texas for about 8 years and doing exactly what we intend to do here. And so a huge opportunity like this, I scoped it out and said, this would be a great place for me to get down there and see if I can lend some expertise and some muscle behind making Harris County veterans succeed.
Awesome. And, just kind of your initial thoughts and perception as you kind of come in, like to take a big kind of look at the landscape and analyze the environment, talking about counterterrorism operations and just knowing your battle space, so to speak, and analyzing, what the challenges and opportunities are. Upon first look, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see coming into this role? And then what are some of the biggest opportunities you see coming into this role?
Yeah, so I usually teach it as policy strategy match. What is it you want to accomplish, the what piece of that, and then how are you going to do that? And so my original impressions as I got here in the Houston area is, my goodness, this is a big area and a lot of people and a lot of organizations and a lot of moving parts. And so that immediately drives me to an operational level, thinking of how do you coordinate and synchronize all these pieces? Where is there perhaps overlap in services? Where are there gaps in services? So just trying to do the walk the terrain, if you will, and figure out where we are in all of this piece and bring myself up to speed with what's taking place in Harris County. A lot of people that work in these various areas already know a lot of the background or the organizations and the people. I don't. But in that way, it gives me a chance to have some fresh eyes on some of the things that we're doing here. So large, I think it is tremendous resources available. I come most recently from a more rural area where the resources are a real challenge and you got to scrap for the resources. I think the resources are here. It's a matter of making sure we coordinate. I'm really impressed with what you all do at Combined Arms about trying to pull all that together and moving it all in a single direction. But the other thing I noticed right away is I'm not sure a whole lot of people are aware of the Harris County Veteran Services Department, what types of things we can do and what we can bring to the table. So that's what I'm excited about, and our ability to take a mission statement that I've redrafted a little bit, basically connecting Harris County veterans to the resources they need to be successful in their next phase in life. And our vision is really simple. Every veteran succeeds. That's a really simple vision statement. There are some people that are out there really struggling, and we know that in a large metropolitan area. Sadly, there's some people that struggle, and there's some people that are really on top of their game and just need the right connections to the right resources to be able to do the things they want to do in life. And I always talk about, we get a better community. When we get our veterans engaged in our community doing things, we get a better community out of that. So what better place than Harris County, Houston, Texas, to be able to say, this is the best place in the world to be. World-class operation. If you want to be here, you want to get out of the military, Harris County is where you want to be.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. It's a highly complex It used to be very fragmented, but I think it's a little less fragmented now. It's very complex, though. Lots of egos and logos, so to speak, and
Yeah.
how to really bring everyone together. And I think the right leadership at the local government level is critical. The right leadership at the nonprofit level is critical. And like just kind of give everyone an understanding of what the Veteran Services Department currently does, and leading into your mission and vision statement that you mentioned, what will the Harris
Sure.
County Veteran Services Department do? So, what's your 50-meter target, like what you're offering right now? What's your 300-meter target,
Yep.
1 to 3 years from now?
Well, that's great. Great opportunity. Most people know the office as a place you can go to get your claims done. Okay, so it's not just claims; it's all the benefits, and so we basically had winnowed it down to a single individual and carried it on his back for a little while. We're building that back up. I've already hired another person coming in. We've got a great deputy director, Jason Williams, and I think you know Jason. And we share a lot of the same vision. So right now, people probably think of us as claims, and we help community services department execute their Texas Veterans Commission Fund for Veterans Assistance grant. And I want to talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes here. But what I realized is, and the reason I came down here and interviewed and took this job when it was offered, is there are tremendous resources that a county can bring to bear if the county understands the need. And if you're on the inside of the county, it's a lot easier to access those resources than, as I spent my time, and I know you do as well, in the nonprofit world. You're kind of on the outside, knocking on the door, trying to get inside, where we have a lot more things to offer, particularly for those veterans that are really struggling. And that's kind of where a lot of my passion lies. People with the mental health challenges, people with the homelessness, with a variety of those things. We worked some great programs for justice-involved veterans, understanding that there's kind of that death spiral that they get into. There's substance abuse challenges. There's tremendous resources across this county to be able to bring resources to bear for folks that need that. And I have found in my past that with just a little bit of resource injection, we get the veterans back up on step. We turn them into productive members of our community. And so I operate on a hand up, not a handout kind of deal. We sadly see the frequent flyers that just want to put their hand out and expect their, whatever they perceive as due to them. I'm going to operate on a hand up basis. We'll give you the resources, get you back up on step, support you as you're going through some of life's challenges. And to make it simple, turn you into a producer in our community, a producer rather than a consumer in our communities. So be able to bring the resources to bear and be able to communicate as the liaison between our veteran community and our county government. None of the commissioners nor the judge are veterans. They are all very sympathetic towards our veteran cause and everything else, but sometimes there's some education that's required to get people to understand exactly what the challenges are, how you get to that point, and what we can do about that. So I'm really excited to be able to work from the inside, if you will, to be able to bring those resources to bear.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some really interesting models of how counties can really bring, like you said, those resources to bear and generate revenue, tax revenue, and other revenue to not only bolster the government provided resources, whether that's housing or mental health or jail diversion or benefits, food assistance, et cetera, but also empower and lift up some of the best in class nonprofits in the community. So I'm really excited to work with you on that and figure out some of these innovative solutions. I do feel like there's a lot of opportunity, especially in Harris County, because we do have a really progressive and a very, I think, a commissioner's court that is not only sympathetic, but really excited about the opportunity to make Harris County the best county in the world for veterans. But as of right now, we're not, and I think we collectively have a lot of work to do. And when I say we, I mean the entire Veteran Services apparatus and our supporters, rally around you and your team in order to make sure that we're providing the data, we're providing the support, we're providing the connectivity to one another so that we truly can become the best county in the world for veterans.
Yeah, absolutely. It's within reach here. And if I thought it was an impossible task, I would have never even applied for this job, but I looked around, and I think I met you several years ago at another national thing, and we talked a little bit about what we were doing. So I was excited to get down here and be able to do that, and bring some of the models and the pieces that I've put together in much smaller scenarios and put it to scale. So really exciting. I got to be honest with you, it's a pretty easy job to sit as a university professor and do your business there. So it took a lot to dislodge me from that, but the opportunities here are tremendous. You know, I spent 29 years in the Air Force. I spent that 29 years, I spent 2 years with the Army. I spent 2 years with the Navy. I spent 2 years running a foreign fighter squadron. I'm an F-16 guy by trade. So I have a pretty good breadth of experience doing that. And then when I retired, I started turning over rocks and saying, who solves this? Who does that? And there was a lot of disjointed things. And how do we turn over those rocks? How do we find the great and innovative solutions to the challenges that are out there? It's not rocket science by any stretch of the imagination, but a lot of wiring things together. And so we're glad to stand up, plug in, capitalize on what you guys are already doing here. And just, I think, a really exciting future for Harris County veterans.
Yeah, I've noticed that you didn't say you worked with the Marine Corps, so that's probably a good thing. I'm glad you didn't have to have that poverty experience. You know, they tend to
Well,
want to
I
give
did. I
Air
used to
Force.
teach.
So
I
go
used
ahead,
to
go ahead.
teach at the Navy's War College, and so
Oh
I
yeah,
used to say, and some of my very best colleagues were Marine Corps colonels for the most part. But I enjoyed doing that. But usually I say I spent 2 years with the Army, so I speak Army. Spent 2 years with the Navy, so I speak Navy. I spent a lot of time working with the Marine Corps, so I speak slowly. And
don't use big numbers, lots of pictures, and
that's right,
drawings.
exactly.
No, that's a good thing. That would be what you Air Force like working with the Marine Corps, what you Air Force folks would consider a poverty experience. I think that they give y'all per diem when you come on to Marine Corps bases when you have to stay in our lodging. I think they give you per diem because it's substandard.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep them down, keep them hard. So in this era of COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic that we're in, obviously, we're both at home right now, and that's where we should be. That's our responsibility as productive citizens right now, is to stay home if we're not in essential roles. What's your take on how is your team reacting to the needs of the veteran community during this time, and how are they adjusting? And then also what are you seeing in terms of ways that we can use innovation and use collaboration to combat the social isolation that may creep up on a lot of our veterans and their families?
So our team has had a couple of challenges, most of them technical communications challenges. We're able to communicate with each other and everything else, but one of the things we recently discovered is our traditional Harris County Veterans Office line is unable to be forwarded. We thought it was able to be forwarded, so there was kind of this gap in services when we did that. And as we get towards the end, I'll give you a new number that you can put out and help us publish. So
absolutely, we'll put it on the screen for Marines.
Very good. So one of the things that comes to mind immediately here is we know there's going to be tremendous need. And so trying to work hard with Texas Veterans Commission to say, hey, with the Fund for Veterans Assistance, we can spend every nickel you can send our direction in Harris County. If it would be a shame for the Texas Veterans Commission to have excess funds that nobody can execute. And quite frankly, somewhere around the state of Texas, in some locations, people are saying, because of the circumstances, we can't execute our grant anymore. Well, that's not our challenge. We can certainly execute that grant. We can do that. We know there's going to be tremendous need out there. And so we are actively pursuing additional funds to be able to get people the resources that we need. We also know, and I believe firmly, that this is going to be relatively short term. I say relatively, it's not going to be World War II in length. It's going to hurt. It already hurts. There's a lot of people that are out there that are already stressed enough. And when we start looking at all the challenges associated with perhaps job loss, income loss, dealing with your kids not in school, a variety of other things, I usually like to talk about a stress bucket. My model is we all kind of have a little bucket, and our bucket fills up with the additional stressors. And so a normal human being that deploys to combat 2 or 3 times, they're filling their stress bucket up, and their families recognize that. And so sometimes we'll see somebody that gets pushed over the top, And it's a simple little thing that pushed them over but it filled up their stress bucket to the point where it overflows. So I'm acutely aware of the need now to make sure that we can solve ways to try to reduce that stress bucket or put it all in perspective. I worry a lot about those that are struggling, particularly when you get people that are isolating, and then we say social distance. When I said social distance, to me, I said that sounds a lot like isolation. Isolation is generally bad for a veteran that's struggling. So how can we do that? How can we use the technologies, FaceTime, Zoom? How can we check in on each other? How can we make the battle buddy concept still work on a day-to-day basis, check in on each other and check in? And a lot of that shared experience. We're going through a new experience. As old as I am, I didn't go through the Depression well before my time. But we're going to see a new experience here, I think, of some resource challenges across America. We're fortunate that we went into this in a very, very strong economic state. I'm very hopeful and very faithful that we are going to recover out of this, that we're going to have a great, strong economy again. And I'm also very faithful that our veteran community are going to be some of the people inside our neighborhoods that lead us out of this. You know, we've been through adversity before. If you've got a combat deployment under your belt or multiple combat deployments under your belt, you've been through adversity and you know that there's going to be some challenges. You know, a few years ago when we had the big solar eclipse that transited across the United States, we took about a dozen of our homeless veterans from the Lubbock area and we piled them into vans and we drove for like 14 hours to get up to the middle of Nebraska, and they got to experience that solar eclipse, which was really, really remarkable. I've never seen anything like it. But the message was, imagine being 500 to 1,000 years ago and it gets dark in the middle of the day all of a sudden. It's going to be pretty freaky and you're not sure what's going on. In this day and age, we know we're going to go through something dark and we know there's going to be light on the other side of this. And so it's not nearly as freaky or not nearly as stressful, not nearly as anxiety driven as this. We know we're going to come out of this. I know that there's people that are experiencing anxiety out there right now because of a loss of a variety of different things. Just your freedom to move about. That's a real challenge. And so we need to band together. We need to check on each other. We need to make sure we use the resources. We need to not be afraid to put our hand in the air and say, hey, I'm struggling a little bit over here. Use all the social media channels that you have. I know you at Combined Arms have tremendous resources to be able to bring to bear. One of the first things I did was get together with the Harris Center when I first arrived here in the community and talk to them. Their mobile crisis outreach team is all not just veteran friendly, but they're all culturally trained to be able to deal with veterans. And so another number I just want to throw out real quick is Harris Center has a mental health support team, 833-251-7544. That's 833-251-7544. They are great people there. I was really impressed by their operation. They are veteran competent. They're military culturally competent. They're there to be able to help get people through crises. If not, then use the VA standard lines. If you don't want to call, you can always text the VA 838-255. So let's get through this together and let's work really hard on looking at the far end of this and what we're going to do. You know, it's kind of weird. We experience a hurricane or a tornado event or even a wildfire or some of the other hazards, you know, inherently this is going to be over sooner or later, and that's going to be about the rebuilding. This one's a little bit more fuzzy, and we're not quite sure when things are going to be over. We may not have even seen the worst of it yet, but that's okay. We're going to get through this, and I know our veterans are going to step up to the challenge and be the ones that lead our communities back from, in some cases, some extreme despair with a lot of people. We're going to get through this, and we're going to be just fine on the other end of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, this community in particular, you mentioned hurricanes, and, you know, we're incredibly resilient, just as we are coming on the backside of Hurricane Harvey and being, I think, incredibly successul and recovering quickly and rebuilding. You know, this happens, but now it impacts the entire world. So it kind of hits home and in a lot of different ways, but Houstonians and this greater region, I think, are fairly resilient, and I think we'll jump back up as quickly as we were knocked down by this. But I'm glad that you mentioned the Harris Center. I mean, they are a phenomenal partner for the veteran community. They have a great partnership, as you know, with the VA. If the Harris Center, for example, receives a client who's eligible for VA services, then they'll make sure and then make sure that there's a warm handoff there. And then similarly, if a patient comes into the VA and they're not eligible for VA services,
Right.
but they are a veteran, then they'll send them to Harris Center. I think that there's such a great relationship there, and there's some great data around how many lives that they've saved collectively. And then there's so many other different great resources that the county, I think that the veterans already take advantage of as just humans. I mean, Marines aren't humans, but everyone else, a veteran wise are humans. Like, we're eligible for a lot of out of the box human services. And how do
Right.
we, as the veteran community, tap into that and ensure that we know which agency is on our left and our right, and how to quickly and effectively work with them. So it's going to be really exciting to have you in that role to help us kind of figure out some of these nuances and block and tackle on the governmental side, so that we can do our job better by knowing that these programs exist, and make sure that we're handing off warmly.
Right. There's nothing worse than a resource that exists that nobody knew about or an individual didn't know about. I know right now with things like unemployment claims, I know an awful lot of people that said, I've never had to file unemployment before. I don't want to do it now. It hurts me from a pride perspective. Hey, this is what you available for. So don't intentionally hurt yourself when those resources are available out there, for example. So, and John, I'd like to throw out one technique. I teach a certified public manager course, and we talk about executive stress, because a lot of those people in some of those jobs wind up in a very stressful situation. And I just want to teach a technique, because people are no doubt are filling up their bucket and being a little more stressed in this day and age. And it's this really simple technique that was taught to me years ago, and it goes like this. Create a worry list. So just brainstorm, get out a pad of paper and write down everything that's got you worried. Don't prioritize, don't try to rank order them or any of that kind of stuff. Just write down everything that's got you worried. And after you've getting it all written down, take a breather, take a step back and say, these are the important things. Now we can start to prioritize them. Take a look at things that you have control over. Take a look at things that you don't have control over. If you don't have control over it, cross it off your list. And then pick a couple of the easy ones and go solve them. Pick a couple of the small things that have been nagging at you. I haven't had a chance to do X or Y or Z because I just haven't had the time to spend at home. I'm on the road all the time. Guess what? You have time to spend at home now. Maybe you can get some of those little tiny stressors off your list. So just work on that worry list, and before you know it, you're going to have more than half of them crossed off. And again, recognizing the things that you can control and the things that you can't control, really important.
Absolutely. And I think that's great. Your background and knowledge will be a great resource to a lot of our nonprofit and government agency leaders as we continue to kind of build this concept of professional development out for our veteran serving organizations and the cadre, which really hasn't existed before for our specific vertical. We've and I think that we could build on that. We're forming an institute at Combined Arms that will partially be focused on this professional development vertical, which we're really calling VSO 2.0. It's really taking the veteran serving organizations into the 21st century and investing in our micro and our meso level program managers, so they can be the next macro, that they can be the next directors and leaders of our space. So that'd be great to get you in that, maybe the in between the meso and the macro level, to come and teach a couple of courses. I think that'd be pretty neat.
That's awesome, because what I teach at Texas Tech, what I used to teach at the Naval War College, was strategy and policy. So most people think military strategy. And it dawned on me about, I don't know, a little over 10 years ago, what if we took the same construct that we use to go fight wars, take the kinetic part out of that? And that's exactly was the basis. That was the basis for me founding my first veterans nonprofit, working with the local mental health authority to be able to do that. So the same process, the same environment concerns, all of those types of things. It turns out you can use that same knowledge without the kinetics in it to solve all kinds of complex social issues. If you believe that war is a complex social issue, and it is, then we can solve other complex social issues. A couple of weeks ago, I helped the state of Alabama craft their COVID-19 response based on, if you're going to fight a war, and we were talking about this long before anybody else started using those buzzwords. If you're going to fight a war, and this is a non-kinetic war, wouldn't you want a warfighter's perspective on what you need to do to be able to get from not just the strategy, but into the operational side, all the way down to the tactical and task side. So I'm glad to hear that with Combined Arms. I look forward to sharing my expertise in that area. We've helped a lot of nonprofits grow to be able to take that kind of thing and just apply that warfighter mindset at all levels to be able to go out and solve challenges.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And, where we are kind of fighting our own kind of counterinsurgency against this pandemic that's a little
Great
more,
word.
you know,
Yeah, great word. You're
just,
spot on. And that was the first thing we said is counterinsurgency. And you've got an enemy that is dumb. It's very predictable, but it's persistent and it's invisible. And so, what would Sun Tzu tell us?
360-degree war.
Yep. What would Sun Tzu tell us? Attack their strategy, right? And there's a lot of great things we can do to be able to get after this. And I could teach all day on this, but I won't. Try to keep this as short as we can.
Well, thanks again for being on with us today, Dave. And what's the just with a reference for the office number, the department number? I know. Can you throw that out there so we can also put that on the screen?
Yeah, 832-927-8397. 832-927-8397. Our number that was the 6600 was the last four, is the one that's not forwarding for reasons only known to communications engineers and other people. But you can reach us. That one has been forwarded directly to Miguel, our world-class claims guy, 832-927-8397.
Awesome. And if veterans need help with claims, or if they need help with financial assistance, rental, utility assistance, that's the number you call. You can also reach out to us here at Combined Arms and make sure that we will dispatch you to Harris County Veteran Services Department, or find another organization that's the right fit for you and your family during these unprecedented times. Please don't hesitate to reach out online or on or via phone. Dave Lewis is the new Director of the Harris County Veteran Services Department. Thank you so much for being on with us today. Welcome to Harris County. Welcome to Greater Houston. I know you're going to make a huge impact. You're already making a significant impact by leading during this time, and looking forward to working with you side by side.
Thanks, John. I really appreciate that. And by the way, people may not know, we're actually going to relocate down to the Combined Arms building. And so, one-stop shopping, or as I like to say, one-start shopping. You get one place and start
get
to the right place. But so that's
2929 McKinney.
That's been a little slowed down given the circumstances, but it's in the works, and we're really excited about moving down there and being part of that Combined Arms team.
We are too. I've been giving tours since we made, the decision was made. I was like, yeah, Harris County Veteran Services Department's going to be upstairs as well. So it's going to be, one team, one fight. We're creating our kind of super fob, in order to really attack a lot of these enemies out in the space. And those enemies are unemployment and underemployment, family challenges, substance abuse, homelessness and housing issues, criminal behavior, and most importantly, suicide. I think we are truly on the preventative end of all of that. And that's our new warfighting strategy, is to prevent all of those social issues from ever taking root in any veteran's life, so that we can be truly the greatest county in the world for veterans.
Yep, I agree. And I say job one for each and every one of us is suicide prevention. That's job one.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Dave, for being on. Thank you for your continued service to our country and our community. And we'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, John.
Thanks.